Hi, I'm BZ Rieger, and welcome to the Quantum Playground. And Jeannie! Jeannie has called me up and said, hey, let's play. So it's April 19th, 2021, and we're going to play with perception, knowing, and coloring outside the lines. Jeannie had this thought and said, what do you think? So I love it. Can you give us like what were you feeling? What were you playing with? What were you doing when this came and said, "Hey, let's play with this"?
Well, I was doing my I don't know. I mean, I'm always musing in my mind about life and how it works and where I'm at, how I got where I'm at, and how can I share my perspective and knowing with other people, because I'm having a pretty good time with life right now. Lots of joy, lots of synchronicity, and happy. I had a grandmother who taught me just be happy. I mean, there's always something going on, but you can always choose to be happy no matter what. And so um, I was just thinking about my journey through being raised Catholic and all of the lack of esteem. I mean, you grow up thinking that you're a born sinner, so that's pretty low self-esteem. And my I was thinking about my journey of how I went through that feeling and those rules and all the intricacies and relationships with family and society, and how much more free from my perspective people would be if they could break free of all of that of being a good Catholic
Right.
and just love themselves and know that they're worthy and they are wonderfully made. And and I have come through that journey, and I do know who I am, and I do know this love that I experience every day. I wake up and I thank God, the universe, source, Jeannie, thank you that I am. Appreciate this beautiful life that I've been given and get up and put my best self into it. And life has been really, really fun. And the whole coloring outside the lines thing, stepping away from the Catholic Church, I walked away because I felt like I was a hypocrite. I was drinking and I was having sex before I was married. And, of course, once I did get pregnant, I did do the right thing by, getting married. And from my perspective, at the time, it was a mistake, but, I've learned a lot from it. I've become who I am through the experiences. So I can't say I did the wrong thing, but I am saying that I've had the courage to color outside the lines in the sense that I was raised with these certain rules and there's these society norms, and I did my best to be my best, but I made choices that were frowned upon. For example, you know, I grew up with the thoughts and the feelings that pleasuring yourself was not good, that you needed to sacrifice and suffer and give and give and give. And, so the simple, the simple pleasures that Catholics get, besides some drink alcohol, is eating food, and so that was the acceptable thing to do to pleasure yourself. So, whatever, it is what it is. And that's a whole another conversation. But, but I've made choices through the experiences that have um I've come to make choices that feel right in my heart.
Mhm.
I used to do the things that I was told to do. I was a good little Christian girl. I obeyed, and I suffered much for my choices to obey as opposed to, follow my heart. And so now I'm following my heart, and I know that I know that I know that I am loved and worthy and bright and beautiful and awesome. And so is everyone else, no matter what. And the coloring outside the lines, besides the obvious, reference that I make to allowing self pleasure, um, there are many ways I could even still color outside the lines. Oh, I know. Here's a really good part of it. So I hear this squeaky toy.
He's coloring outside the lines. Sorry, he's
I
just.
know, I love it. I love it. Um, so I was thinking we've all been conditioned in a certain way, each in our own life, each in our own experience. Like, some Catholic, some you name it. There's just infinite infinities of us that have had our experiences, and we're in this system, in this world, and it there's this narrative that's it's this, and there's this pandemic. Oh, sorry, I said the word.
Yeah.
Oopsie. But there's this perception that the world is this, fearful, awful, ugly place. And I'm sitting here thinking, I know that I am a conscious creator of my reality. And if I use my imagination, and I can create something completely, and I have, but
Right.
just like way outside the lines, like maybe my hair will turn blue naturally if I envision it, or purple. That's my favorite. Just maybe I'll sprout wings. I mean, it's limitless.
Right.
Our potential for creation is limitless. And I know it, and I'm so passionate about having everyone else have the freedom and the awesome exhilaration that I have in my knowing. So, and
Cool.
the fun, have the fun to color outside the lines in their own experience and see what joy it brings.
Yeah, very cool. And what part of what you were just describing, from one perspective, right? From one of my perspectives, and that would be what an amazing journey, especially given what a whole host of beings are just about to find out about the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church and all of that. And that it couldn't be, the lines that one is put in, and the things to do good, and the rules and all, couldn't be further from the truth
I
of
know.
embracing who you are, or actually a road that takes you to the absolute wrong side of the tracks, or the wrong side of good and evil. And so that that was it's a wonderful thing that the storyline that you shared. But again, so I love the title, that the perception, now you can look at as you brought that forward, and kind of dance around just that word, and what does it mean. And when what did your one's perception used to be like when you were growing up Catholic,
Right.
and how does it change now, and where has your knowing adjusted as you've shifted in your perceptions of that. And what were once coloring outside of the lines, from the Catholic lines and stuff, are are not really coloring out anymore, because you realize those lines either didn't exist, or those were tiny infinitesimal lines, and now you've got the big lines of humanity, and you started to lead with that is, well, maybe my hair will just turn purple by itself, or all of those fantastical and magical things. And they're not really lines either, as we move our perception a little
Right.
further and a little wider.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Coloring outside the lines, hold it down over there. Um, and, and then into your knowing. So it is fun to play with all of that. And there's something that you said in maybe it was before we went on camera, but that your perception can shift quite a lot in one day,
Yes.
either from a constricted space, or a lower vibrational energy space, to a broader one, and a higher vibration. Or if you're, depending on which topic or which focus is got a hold of your attention, during the day. So uh, right now, with all of these things that are happening, with all the things that are being revealed, and I don't know, for me anyways, and I look around, that it's palpable. There is so much unfolding and happening, seemingly behind the scenes. Although if you look, it's pretty right out there, and there's so much. It's not waiting. It's kind of like a pregnant pause where the flower bud is right there, and you can see it coloring up. You can see it getting a little waxy, or like flowers do. And you might have see some, if it's a peony bud, you might see some ants start to crawl around because they take the little nectar sap that comes out. It's a reciprocal relationship that they have, but it feels like the finishing, or the big crumbling of the old, and the burgeoning of the new is just in this ripe phase that's really just about to go like this. And for people who aren't awake at all, it's going to feel not like, oh, look at that beautiful flower blooming at first. It's going to be like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the walls of Jericho are actually coming tumbling down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I we had at work, we had a third party vendor, who I like very much. He came, and I got a call. I had to, anyways, I had to go help him get into some technical room and stuff like that. And so I went, they had just pulled over in their vans to the place I was in. I came up in the vehicle I was in, and I said, "Hey, how's it doing?" And they both have, it's hot, 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 and bright sun, and they both have masks on. We're outside. And I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said his name, and I said, "Look at you, because we're good friends." I said, "But look at you." I said, "You've got a diaper in your face in this hot, muggy sun." He said, "Yeah." And then he went on to say some other things and talked about his family a little bit. And so we got inside, and I thought, well, I think I can take a chance to just have a soft question, because I'm curious. I'm curious. I don't have a mask. I don't never wear a mask. Won't wear a mask. Can't wear a mask, and absolutely won't. Anyways,
Yeah.
and so I just, hey, how's it going? And and I'm like, hey, and I always kind of smile inside, because I'm thinking, I wonder if anybody ever thinks to themselves, what does she know that we don't know?
Yeah. Don't you wonder that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, does she know something? Or, pretty soon they're all gonna go, all the people that they've seen with that mask on, they're gonna go, yeah, so they did know something that we didn't know all along. Anyway, so I took the chance to just softly ask a question, and I was kind of in my head trying to, because I'm at work and I'm trying to be, a good little worker bee there, and as far as optics and all that kind of stuff. And so I decided on asking, so do you something like, are you buying everything that that is
Are you
that life is the way that everybody says it is? And he's a sweet guy, and he said, I don't know what I believe. And I said, well, there's an interesting answer. And then something like, well, I don't buy all the hype, but I buy, enough of the hype to be safe, and something else. And I thought, yeah, I mean, and that's, I thought, so I said, okay, that's enough. My brain, don't just shallow talk. And so I thought about it. When he left, I texted him, because in that, talking about, in the perception, in the knowing, and coloring outside the lines. And I thought, well, I don't want to sell anybody anything. And whatever choices they've made, and things that they're choosing to do to the little short ones in their family, because of what they think is going on is their choice. It's their free will choice, and it's absolutely for them the right choice to make. Not me to comment on it, but it hurts my heart. So I thought, well, how can I take my perception in a different, wider range of things, and my absolute knowing of that, and color outside the lines of the linear and the mask lines, absolutely, but really not coloring outside the lines at all, in the broader perspective, and touch, have it be a touch point in a way that is pure love, that might also crack the nut a little bit, maybe make a tiny little fissure in the nut, as in cracking the nut,
Mm-hmm.
to let a little sunlight come in, to go, right, like we talked about. I wonder what she knows that I don't know. So I texted him and I said, it was great to see you, and because I hadn't seen him in a while, it's great to see you, and then I will hold, he had said that he just had another child. I said, I hold your littlest one in my heart, and your other children as well, and send them healing for them, healing for them, for the times they're having to navigate with all the people around them. And I thought that was the softest, and he'll either go, well, that's a kind of odd thing, or he'll feel how the text was intended. And he did. He wrote back, and had a wonderful, just, if I was to like make emotive signals with my hands, the text was very expansive, and very, very pleased, and very happy, and very touched with the text that I had written him. And he responded in kind. And so again, that's one of, in where we are with all the things in that P word that you talked about there, that we're going through. That's my choice. I could cite this study, I could, give them a link, I could do all this kind of stuff, or I could just see, how can I touch heart to heart and open the door, just because obviously I don't have a mask. So, I know something, at least my perspective is different than theirs is, right? And because I'm in a work setting, and so they know that everybody else on the place wears masks except for me. So, it's an interesting way, and again, people can decide how they want to play with it. But to me, it was the most fun, the most coloring outside the lines, certainly from a job and these days in linear perspective, to really have synchronicities. It's kind of like it was opening a door to synchronicities, and opening a door to noticing, to exploration, to, huh, that he might just think about, or he now maybe, you were talking about before we got on camera, that you were having so much fun with all the synchronicities lining up. So maybe there'll be another synchronicity that will line up, and because of our experience today, which wasn't very long, but you know he'll then notice all the other ones. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So um so that when you were bringing the title forward, that was one of the ways that I thought, well, that's a cool way to play with it, as we just go through our life, as we just go through what the day-to-day thing is, and meeting people where they are, and in different parts of their perception.
Very good. Yes. So please say again what you said to him about keeping the little one in your heart, and what else did you say to him?
I said, let's see, I said, good to see you, his name. I'll hold your new little one and your other children in my heart, for them to heal from the times people are navigating through. Create a great day.
Nice.
And he said, thank you, BZ, exclamation point. Much love. It was very nice to see you too. So again, it's not so much the words, but the feeling from the text was, it was like a node point moment, because in general, but because I'd asked him the question that I asked earlier, and then just let it be. I didn't say, well, it's, this is a scam. It's this, it's that, right? I just said, well, that's an interesting answer. you know.
You,
um,
you know, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was, when you just said that, it brought to mind how lately I'm letting things be. I mean, I've been very outspoken whenever I've done a lot of learning. Whenever I learn something that resonates with me, that feels good, feels like truth, I share it with whoever will listen. And through this whole situation, I've done a lot of sharing of information and, just talking to people about, you know, why I don't do, why I don't participate. And not as a way of excusing why I don't, but just saying, I care about myself, I care about you
Right.
too. So, but lately, um, I just haven't felt the need to share the information as much to because I feel like people are pretty well making their choices.
Yes.
And I've had some people close to me choose to get the poke, and it I cried when I
Yeah.
found out. It broke
Yeah.
my heart because
Yeah.
of what I know.
Right.
And so I can't really talk about it anymore because I have to trust that their inner being is going to keep them in the way that they, you know, that they'll be okay. And from my perspective, with what I know in life and my experience, we're all going to be okay.
Well,
you know,
yeah, we're all gonna be. It may, again, if your perspective is that okay means a certain thing, you know, that may have to flex and expand a bit. But yes, we
right,
absolute. It is absolute God's truth, source's truth that not only will we be okay, but we already are. Just
right,
you know,
yeah, yes,
fantabulous already.
yes, yes, yes. And I see that, and I know that, and there was a time in my life when I would have listened to this conversation and said, "What the hell are they talking
Right.
about? I don't even know what they're saying right now."
Right. Right.
So, yes, I do know, and I hold that knowing in my heart, and I send love out to all, and I appreciate the beauty of Mother Earth, and I see peace. I know peace, and I see peace in my world, and I'm very thankful that I am in a space where that is true, and I also send out my love to the ones that are in the deepest, darkest pits that are still going through their dark nights. And
Yeah, and by doing what you're talking about, what I gave a little story about too, we're we actually are sharing. We're not sharing the links. We're not sharing, the information on being jabbed with this or that, the other thing, or the not wanting to, or any of those kinds of things. We're sharing actually. You not only will be okay, but you already are okay. You know.
mhm,
Because it envelop all there is love. I mean, if you're in a skirmish right now, or you're in um, the heat of different things that are going on, it may not look like that, but um, that's a certain focus that one can be in, that in that moment, if you think of a play, if there's a I don't know, some kind of nerve wracking, cliffhanger type of scene that you're playing. Well, yeah, it's supposed to, oh my gosh, that part of the cliff just fell off, and oh, the dragon missed me, and right, and that's the intensity that's bringing, and you just as your muscles may get sore a little as they're flexing to give you the power to do what you need to do, and then actually be stronger from that internally or physically and all sorts of things. um, we're moving through that right now, and um, one of the things that just came to thought is that um, a lot of people are like, well, are we there yet? Why is this taking so long? Or no, it's just, it's not going to happen, or various iterations of that. And, or I can't believe that a certain person is the administrator of the United States, and whatever it is that there's a whole host of things to I can't believe right this moment. Um, and if we play in down some of those roads, we don't avail ourselves of all the different data that's out there, using exactly, you have like a tool recipe here. We When that flow of data comes in, if we have a perception to it, whatever that current perception we may have of it, and we play with it, we walk all the way around it, and we kind of pick it up and examine it, and like a kid, we might taste it or whatever it is, so that we're experiencing it a little. And then we meet it in a different way, so that we can shift our perception of it, touch into our knowing, right? Which is a higher, broader, deeper aspect of that. And then from that place, start to color outside the lines. Well, the narrative, which is a line, is this, and then the alternative narrative is this, right? Oh, this is happening. No, don't do that, sort of a thing, because that's bad or whatever. And you can then move even further, as you've given examples of, where you're in your heart, and you're releasing the, I don't know, maybe it was a need, right, to share, a compelling need to share data and topics or something like that, and now just instead just to hold those beings in love where they are.
And that actually is what we can all do in varying degrees with the circumstances, instead of saying, are we there yet? Or I can't believe it's happening. Or, because there was a point in my life where that would have led me to fear,
Mm-hmm.
observe this, and, not knowing how grand I am, thinking that I was small, and being in fear and being contracted and doing these things, that can be paralyzing.
Yeah.
And so I personally am very intentional about every morning. Well, always, but it's easier if I do it, get out of get out on the right side of the bed. Um, it I do that very intentionally, because I'm aware of the energy and how it works. So my heart is to hold that space, but also to encourage people to be in a space of love, and to be open, and to be, yes, aware of what's happening, but also, grounding and appreciating the earth and the sky, and loving your neighbor, loving yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and not getting so wrapped up in the drama of what's happening.
Right.
And I know it's we need to participate and to do our part in the unfolding of everything, but it's it's so much more fruitful and fun and fantastic if you're in your heart and flowing in the synchronicity of all that is, and having those powerful, awesome encounters, as opposed to, getting up and being in fear and hurt and angry, and, oh, I stubbed my toe, and now I bumped my bumper, and now and oh God, this person's going to make me get poked so I can get on a plane, and all this other stuff, and it's just my heart to help bring that energy, but also to encourage people that they can have a much better experience first of all, being present, being in this present moment is where all of our power is.
Right.
And so if we remain present in our hearts, choosing to be happy and to forgive and love what is, it's bringing about more quickly, more swiftly, that which we would like to be experiencing. And the contraction and the fear and the oh shit and what's what now is gonna draw that painful stuff out for you, and you're gonna have much more pain and anguish. So
Right.
just take off the diaper, breathe
Yep.
and breathe again, and smile, and thank God for the breath of life in your body.
Well, if people take a moment to not only listen again, feel into what you were just saying, and visualize it out there, you're doing it right. So you could be saying, oh well, well, let me tell you the latest, or this just dropped, or there's this story, or whatever it is. You could do all that, but just being there without the diaper on your face, being there with the smile on your face, being there with that sparkle in your eyes, right? And exuding, emitting, right? And transmitting the codes and the light and the knowing is doing far more illuminating, far more educating, far more, helping them oil the ring on their aperture so they can widen it, than a link or this and that and the other, because the links could be, hey. The links could be information to an article, or to a survey, or to a new, they're actually starting to do medical studies and those kinds of things. Yes, but it's, as you said, it's not a picture. It may be data and it's information and it's helpful, but unless it's followed up at the same moment with a balance of, and there's more hard stuff, yes, but there's more amazing stuff, because when all of this washes out, not only will you realize that you're not small, and there's a whole much more things going on, and far more of it is good than bad, but they go together.
Integration, integrity,
Yep.
balance, all in.
Yep. All in. And you were telling the story of the synchronicities with the eagle, and I think if you'd share that, that'd be great. It's another way for, you know your flow here, perception and knowing and coloring outside the lines, which could be as simple as realizing, hey, there never were any lines there, because we can take in the broader picture and change in the moment, actually change our perspective, where it was one place, at first, and it's moved to another place.
So say that again. Moved to another place. What do you mean by that?
Well, so if we're, well, you were talking about it was on the porch. So we've either just had a phone call, or God forbid, we've watched the news thing, or maybe we were looking at our computers and we got upset and we opened the door because we're about to leave to go to work or something like that. And we look outside and we just happen to notice, you know, I'm not going to tell your story. You'll tell that. But we notice something in nature. Maybe we notice a particularly colored car that's a very favorite color of ours, or a make or model or something like that. And we stop for a moment, and in this whole churning that's going on because of the last thing we just did inside, and we're coming out, and the pervasive, you know there's streams and streams and streams of pervasive energies of fighting against or protecting from, or whether it's something that's in pure truth or storyline being handed to you. But in that act of noticing, and in that act of meeting the synchronicity right there, it changes your perspective. It stops you for a moment in this track you were on. You go, oh, look at that. And now you're focusing only on that. It may be for a split second, but that's all. Um, a frustration interruptus. It's it's a negative spin interruptus, and that's gold.
Yes. Yes. Well, in my situation, and I kind of do this dance all the time. So, you know, the way you put it is true. Whenever I see a sign or something, it does help carry that further. In this particular situation, I was dealing with something that, I'm willing to do, but not really ready to do. And I just said to myself, I just took a deep breath and said, just let it go. Things are always working out. Things always work out. And I stepped out onto my front porch and I looked up, and I could have just like looked straight around in my mailbox, but I'm a lover of the earth and sky, so naturally I just look up, and there's this eagle flying low enough I can almost see its eyeball, and it circles all just around, just did a loop up there. And I probably was like, oh, hello, I'm sure I greeted it in some way. um but it was just it's a sign to me, and those kind of things do happen all the time. I mean, and I'm sure they happen a lot for other people as well. And so that was March 30th. And then just a few days ago, I was invited to a dinner party, and this lady had, she's like, I think she's Native American, um, at some point in her in her family pool, and she had a book about spirit animals, and she read to me the meaning of the eagle and the owl as well, another um, bird that's done up for me lately, and hawks. I've been seeing tons of hawks flying everywhere. And so the day after that dinner party, I was at work and I happened to notice one of my favorite tarot channels did a pick a message. It was an owl, an eagle, and a hawk. And I just laughed out loud. I'm like, I can't make this stuff up. It's like
Right.
it's just, and when I get into something like that, when I notice a sign or a synchronicity like that, and I am appreciative and loving and joyful about it, it just keeps getting bigger and more, and I know that the more of us who are able to do this and to connect, and well, I mean, our energy, it's all connected anyway, I feel. But the more of us that are able to do this in our little areas, it's like sparklers
It
going
changes
through the
everything.
smoke.
It
It does.
changes everything. Yeah. Yeah. Sparklers is a wonderful image because for me it conjures where you're in the sparkling. It's there's a brightness and emitting that, right, but also that energy is being transmitted out so it can catch someone else's. If you drove by and you saw someone's, have little sparklers that used to be on a wand, and we used to run around the yard and we'd circle them, and it'd be dark out, so you just see these two circles if you had one in each hand. And again, that's another note. So you're spreading that noticing and a potential change of perception, because maybe it gives them a fond memory of a kid. So anything that we can do where we're moving in sync with their heart, um, lets us have a broader focus, a broader consciousness aperture on the times, the events, the storylines, and what's true for us that we're moving through.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we emit that it's as we breathe, as we smile, as we walk through the world, we admit that. And we can admit that if we're, hopping up and down or huffing and puffing or, trying to show someone, no, read this thing right here, but you don't understand, and what, um, how is it getting through, and how are you, is the way that you're doing it at the widest aperture of an open heart and consciousness that you can possibly hold in that moment, that you're then transmitting, because that's the only thing, and is the thing, make no mistake about it, that is getting us fully completed in the unwinding and the unbinding of all of this.
Wow.
you
And
know we
if you go like this with a lit sparkler and an unlit sparkler, you know what happens?
That's right.
Ignite.
That's right. That's right. So I mean, that's a great metaphor for perhaps shifting your perspective and your perception on something, the way maybe one has been educating or information or red pilling or however you want to say it. I always like to call it love pilling, because it's a different energetic. If you're love pilling someone, like the gentleman I just spoke of at work, and that whole interlude, it could have been a thing where he would have gone home, oh, that nut job about the mask, but instead, I haven't looked at it yet, but it came through. He sent me a text with pictures of two of his kids. Now, he's never done it, but he's all excited, and yes, they're the newest and all that, but it's changed his whole thought about that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if down the road that he might look at other things, or have a touch point of some kind of different information than the narrative, right? And meet it in a little different way, right? Because that whole interaction was given by someone who you could see them smiling,
Yeah.
you know and
And
it's the in that particular aspect, there's many of them, but with what's going on in the mask, that it's a fundamental component of our connection,
yes,
because it changes how people don't look directly in one's eyes and all that kind of stuff. It changes how we, on purpose, that's, make no
I
mistake, that's part of the whole design of it. It has nothing to do with anything else, but to it's a diaper interruptus. It interrupts that connection that is, normally transmitted in the human element.
yes. And I'm sure most people know that when a child is born, if that child doesn't get touched, it dies. And the whole separating people 6 feet apart, and covering up your emotions, and saying you can't go visit your loved ones in a nursing home. And I understand. Well, I get the whole premise of it. I personally I personally believe that our bodies are created to self-heal, and that we have very strong immune systems. And I believe that, through fear and stress, the immune systems are compromised, and, you can be susceptible to being sick and ill,
Right.
have dis-ease. But I also know that through the power of love and connection, and, you know, our bodies are naturally created to self-heal when they're in alignment with the love and the spirit of our creator. We are healthy.
Yep.
And when we get smiles, when we get hugs, that is all that all boosts the immune system.
Yeah, and you
You know,
can look at scientific studies on it, right?
right.
Aside from just feeling it and knowing it, and having an attunement to that, right? You can also look at the whole linear, um, double blind studies and all that of that, what shows you, you're one of the things that you're referring to is there is a, I think there's a couple studies about what happens to infants if they don't get that, how it on a whole physiological way, and in addition to emotional and mental things, it shifts something within them. But again, this is more um, supportive data to show you that the storyline is not about what is being pointed to, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe I've ever seen a tweet, all the different social media things, any news thing, anything about how to build your immune system. Not once, not ever, not nothing.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, it's been so silent, so mute on that not a single anyone, and only a few in the alternative. But it's like, what, did everybody forget that?
Right. I know.
And the absence of it is glaring.
Well, and the things that are being put out there are not helping build it. They're helping destroy it
Right.
from my perspective.
Right.
From,
Well, from, if you look at science, if science is one's indicator, yeah. So one of the things that I love about what you brought here is that, like I said, just the way it hit me when I read the text. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago now. And I was at work and I was doing something, not enjoying it. I remember it very clearly. And I read your thing and I said, "Oh, that'd be fun." And I thought about, right, I thought about connecting with you and playing with you and having conversations and doing recording. And then I thought back to what I was doing right in that moment. And I read your text, the words of the title again, and I thought, oh, so I literally stepped in a different position to what I was working on and looking at.
wow.
And I thought, well, look at that. The light's hitting this task I have to do and subject a little differently. And it, for me, was a tool to really change my perception, right, and my perspective of something, and it shifted my day. So it was a wonderful thing. So when you say, well, and I think we talked a little bit about this off camera, where one sometimes might say, well, I want to do more, or is there a way I can do these things? This kind of thing is incredibly powerful, and it's important not to underestimate the power of a smile, or sharing something that is uplifting for you, just as a story, just as a way, instead of, hey, how about the masks, or or what about all those cycles and the positive tests. It can be, the sun is great, or there's things going on, or hey, I noticed this synchronicity. And just from someone meeting that you may not know very well, or have more relationship with, your enthusiasm for that, it's like a synchronicity that they've seen of their own. Does that make sense? Because they're going, wow, I never thought about it that way. Or look at that smile, look how interesting and interested she is in what she's sharing. And so they go and may see a bird, or in fact an eagle, and they notice. And so this is like it's this whole, kind of grumbling interruptus all the way down the road.
I
Right.
love it. I love
you
it.
know and I mean, I can imagine that they get home or get someplace and go, I met this woman and she was excited about this thing, and I don't know. It was cool that she was excited, but didn't make sense to me. And then I was driving along and I saw, this colored bird or this eagle or whatever it was, and I stopped. It was kind of cool. You know what I mean? And they're like, "Hey, wait a minute. Now I know why she." Right. So we never know, from an uplifting, expansive, positive thing, or from a contracting and um, really kind of going too much in the company line or coloring too much inside the lines, how that sets someone up. And since, like I said, the way to get out of and finish unwinding and unbinding all of this is from the heart and expansion, then I, for
Yeah.
one, say, well, that's what I'm going to do as much as I can, as often as I can, as big as I can, because I'm ready to get there.
Yes, me too. And on that note, um, the more of us that are able to embrace those moments and just to be present in the moment, it's there's so many distractions in the world that draw your attention, and that's intentional. It's like, turn off all the distractions that you can turn off, and just, where am I? What color is the sky today? Who's this standing by me? How am I feeling right now? What is going on in my heart right now? Just close your eyes and stop stop the thought factory,
Yeah,
and breathe, and just breathe and just say, how do I feel right now? What am I feeling? Oh, okay, this is better,
right.
all right. And then after you take a few breaths, continue forward, and like you said, you're seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, and even I heard someone say, "Well, but you don't understand. I don't like my job, and now with all this COVID stuff, I got all these extra stupid things I have to do." And yeah, actually, I do know, but um, what we're talking about is also a great way, because unfortunately, it's so pervasive now. Even if you where whatever state you're in, whatever is flowing, so take the play with the realization. um is this really the door to walk through for the best is yet to come coming? Meaning being expansive, meaning going in the heart, meaning keep in each moment, choose the what you give voice to internally or to someone else, um, in be in the most fullest expression of for you in that moment. And it'll change from moment to moment during the day. In that moment, for going to that broadest consciousness, the broadest expansion of your heart, and just entertain that. Because when you fully, there seems to be a point, a place, maybe a level of repetition. I'm not sure. It's kind of all those things and more, where one gets to the full realization, the full internalization, the full integration, the full grokking. You can again describe it on many levels and layers, where you see it and you know it and you feel it and you taste it, and that's all of you, that is the way, that is the answer. And if any moment I'm saying, well, and then it might start with like, well, I don't like, or this is, blah blah blah, right? I can go, yes, and I'm looking to change it. I'm looking to bring something else to me. I'm looking to have X, Y, and Z unfold, right? I'm looking for all of these things. I'm calling it forth. I'm wanting to create it. I am creating it, right? And I know, because of my own experiments, right? My own paying attention, noticing, shifting, as you're saying, my perception, my knowing, hey, I just did that. Okay, look. And then coloring outside the former perceived lines, I know that that's the way through. That's the fastest way, the absolute fastest way, that not only I can go where I want to go, where I can call what I want new and expansive to me and move it, but all of us as a collective can do that. And my part in that is far, there are consequences, the repercussions of the very most expansive sort are the greatest when I'm moving in that direction, because I'm having effect on everything else.
And in response to ones who are looking around and observing in fear, there was a time that I was in that space too. And the whole abusive abuse of children and all of these other things that are very difficult. Back in my Christian days, people would say, I can't understand a God who would let Hitler happen. you know so so all of these things are happening, and good Catholics or Christians, from my because I've experienced both in my own life, um it's like hard to understand how God could allow that to happen. And so I've had my own experience with abuse and my process, my grieving process, and the forgiveness and all of that kind of stuff. But I've come to know, I've come even further along my path to know that I am the creator of my reality. And when I say that, I look at all of the deep darkness that's happening in the world. And there, when I first came to this, it was taking responsibility for myself and my own actions. And that led me to knowing that I'm a creator of my own reality. And so I personally own my part in what all has transpired, because I was a fearful being. I was intimidated. I was afraid. I thought I was born a sinner. I thought the hammer was going to come down on me. I thought the world was going to end in 1986, all of these things. And I stopped giving myself to fear, and I took responsibility for my part in my life, and I started making changes, and I had an open mind and open heart, and I sought truth, and I came to, I forgave others and I forgave myself, and I came to this place where I'm aware that when I do this, this happens. Garbage in, garbage out. You wake up on the right side of the bed and you have a great day. You curse your neighbor, bad shit's gonna happen. It's to me, it all is intertwined. It all is connected. It all makes perfect sense. And I feel like the more of us who allow ourselves to look at the dirty of it, to own our place in it, and to forgive ourselves, forgive others, and just know that all is well. There's a flip, when the dark happens, the light comes
Right,
after. And,
right,
light, you don't turn on a dark switch, you turn on a light switch.
that's right,
When
that's right,
dark goes bye-bye.
right.
So it is my own personal experience to be expansive and happy and joyful as much as I possibly can, because I know that that is so much more powerful, than hunkering down and being afraid of
Yeah,
all these
and
monsters.
it's a process, it's a journey. It's when you're, you know, when you're not, when someone is not where, has not had a direct experience of knowing, not of a particular um something hard, that's not what I'm talking about, but of going through something, right, whatever that is. And nobody's something is, because when you're going through something that's hard for you, it's hard for you. It doesn't matter what, right, the
Yeah.
comparing sort of thing doesn't matter, because in that moment that's your world. And there's that difficulty, trauma, whatever it is. But I've noticed that before someone gets to that realization, that integration of what you just spoke about, where you taking responsibility, so being response able to the different things that are happening, and what am I reflecting out, and putting out there that I'm getting reflection back of, right? And then once you get to that place, it's like you turned a corner, or you stepped, to the other side of what seemed like an impenetrable view screen. You couldn't see through it because you can hear people talk about what you're talking about. I can talk about the same kind of thing all the time, but until you walk through that yourself, you let yourself shift in that perception, and you let the knowing dawn, the light goes on and go, right? And then it's very easy to see, and you can see it in all sorts of focuses. You can see it in all different situations. And but of course, like it had always been, so of course it was, but like that was always the way that you had that knowing, you had that heart feeling of what you and I are speaking of. Until you make, and it's only each individual that can do it, until you um, make that leap, no one can give it to you to see it.
Leap of faith.
Yeah. And there's going to be, a lot of people who are standing going, no, watch out, no. Pretty soon here, we know, with all the stuff coming, and the pitchforks and the bonfires and everything, they're gonna to drag people through the street. And we can't get to the next phase, the next step, the next unfolding, the next burgeoning of, the next big bang, of the real big bang of evolution and consciousness, and the best is yet to come, until we can move through that, because it's holding ourselves, and it's holding and integrating those two frequencies of fear and love.
Something that there were many teachers that I've been the benefit of their wisdom over the years, but one of late, probably for the last 8 years, maybe longer, Abraham Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
That message is it's so powerful, and it's so appropriate for this time, and it, we're experiencing some intense contrast right now, and our inner being has already created the beautiful solution, if you will.
Right.
So it on so in some vibrational level, the answers and the best is yet to come already exists.
Absolutely.
And so the more of us that can know that and color outside the lines of the narrative and add our sparkles and twists to it, the faster it can manifest.
Absolutely. We're drawing it to us. We're magnetizing and materializing it right now, and in various different ways, and more and more and more. And the really cosmically delicious thing is that, the phrase is, one particular phrase is, the best is yet to come. But as each being comes to that realization themselves, as they come to kind of step over that big line and shifting the perception, the best that's yet to come not only has come closer, and can start to be sampled and tasted, and the wonderful fragrance, all that kind of stuff is on the, but it got better. So whatever, if the best was yet to come was, this is it. It's already set in its dimensions and all that kind of stuff, right? And with each being that comes online, that stands in their knowing, and their heart is getting wider and wider and wider in its expansion and its capacity to completely lead the way, and you let your mind just be in service to that, then what was a moment ago the best, just absolutely the best that's yet to come, and it's coming now, it got even better, the best. I mean, it put the best to shame, because it's gotten more expansive, it's gotten more colors and more nuance. Does that make sense? It's
Mhm.
we're not moving the goalpost further away, we're bringing it closer to us faster,
Yes.
and we've changed what that best is yet to come to. We've made it more cosmically delicious.
Yes, absolutely. And everything is really happening now, so we can experience all of that wonderfulness right here in every moment. And I am in my life. And uh and that's the beauty, being able to have this feeling in the midst of, it's just weird. It's like, first of all, to think that past, present, future are all now is
Right.
one mind-blowing, a mouthful in itself. But to know and to experience that which is to come now
Yes.
in the energetic form is really, the way to live a delicious, cosmically delicious life.
Yeah.
Being able to be now in that expansive energy, which for me is happiness, love, and appreciation.
Yeah.
Joy is the purpose of life.
Yeah. And just the picture you painted there, and it could be that there's someone standing right next to you, and they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue how to come from their heart. They don't have a clue that everything they think that, is going on and in the world right now is couldn't be further from the truth. And they don't know that the best is yet to come, and it keeps getting better and better and better as it comes closer, and comes actually pockets of it open up, blossom here and there. Sometimes I know I'll look around, I might be in the store or something, and I'm thinking, it's amazing, it's astonishing. Most of these people, I could kind of read the energies but of different people, but most of them, I would say, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue what um, this virus is really all about. They don't have a clue about what the restrictions are all about. They don't have a clue in my state, the state of Washington. They don't have a clue about what's really been going on, at the state house and the governor. They, you know, nothing that they're walking through and navigating as their touchstones for how things work is based in a way that is in sync with their power, their natural being, their creative ability. They don't, most of, and if I'm looking at a certain grouping of people, they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
And some, then I play a little deeper. I think, well, some of those ones over there, it's almost like I can see it or feel it on them, that they'll go, oh wow, take the mask off, and oh yeah, baby, all right. Because for whatever reason they were, like you had talked about, wanting to be good and following the rules and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and it was just easier to go along and get along and that kind of stuff. And then some are going to, hold on, you can't have my mask, no. Because the
Yeah.
mask is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for where we are.
Well, I yeah, I know what you mean about people not having a clue. And I can only speak for myself. I've only lived through these eyes and this body. But for me, I've always had this quest for knowing. I mean, I look into the microscope and look at the infinity in there, and I'd look at out the telescope or to the stars and look at the infinity out there, and I would wonder what's outside of everything.
Yeah.
So I have all of these deep questions all my life, and I just and I know so much, and it amazes me sometimes when I do encounter people that aren't completely clueless in a conversation about these types of things, and it's puzzling to me a little bit, and it's sad because I perceive that they're unhappy or, feeling bound up or afraid. It
Shh.
just my heart goes out to them because it's like I wish you could know what I know. I wish you could feel what I'm feeling right now. This is, this is really exciting because I'm seeing this and this bit of information, and I know because I knew about this 40 years ago, and it feels right in my soul.
Right.
And they're like, oh, looking down their nose at me because I'm respectful and I won't put on a mask for others, and
Well,
breathe.
and again, that's a metaphor for a twist of conformity, and I always marvel at there's such wondrous stuff out there, even if it's stuff I may not like. It's the complexity to it and the beauty to it, and it as a structure, whatever that is, whether it's a system or a structure or a collective or a group of people or whatever it is. Have always marveled at those things, and in marveling the experience that I have changes me. Like I said, it could be marveling at something that absolutely is horrible, but I can still see all of this because there's something that's doing this, something that's perpetuating this, and so for them, there's a reason for that. So I can look at that, or it could be absolutely delicious that I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen that something that's that beautiful or that um a dance that's woven together to make that thing grow or function or happen or whatever it is. And I have always wondered, I'm thinking, well, I wonder what their miss what their focus is that's not allowing them to see, or not allowing them in this moment to see the wonder of it.
Well, I feel like maybe the answer might be that it might be tied into their self-worth and their perspective of life because of their lack, or you know how they feel about themselves.
Right.
I mean, I personally had a quite a low self-esteem, and didn't like myself because I didn't feel like other people liked me, and I created something in my experience that I didn't like. But I love myself anyway. But when I was in that energy, that lack of regard for myself, I had a very limited scope of what I could see and what I could perceive. I was very, very limited. I was very naive, very not savvy to the ways of things. And I feel like a huge piece of this is, in addition to the fear factor, is the worthiness. If people really knew who they really are, I mean, and I maybe that's part of this whole part of the purpose of this whole
It absolutely is. Absolutely. That's what I refer to my, all this stuff that we're having going through right now.
whole
It's
yeah.
below the fold.
Yeah.
That boy, and that's what's going to bring people to their knees. As hard as people think that some of this other stuff is going to be, it's nothing compared to up here, because as you're saying, that's it's been an anathema to their whole being, walking in the world, how they relate, how they use it to, as telemetry to navigate their whole world. Because when they and you meet it every morning, right? You go to bed with it every night. When they meet the full force of that love, of that connection, of that you're never alone, and the magnificence of who you are, and the glorious web and warp and weave of the tapestry of that magnificence that is all that is. When you even glimpse it for a moment, again, for as if for the very first time, it will drop you to your knees in a good way, but it'll take your breath. And
Yep.
then you
I'll
meet
attest
it
to that.
again, and you meet it again, and you lay down the resistance to that. You lay down the kind of the repelling or the doubt or the fear, whatever it is, because you can't help but be awash with it. And talk about the best is yet to come.
Yes. I think about that, and I think about those moments, like when it that happened to me, I literally did like down on my face on the carpet in an instant when I was looking in the mirror, and I just had that thought of God is in here, and God loves me, and I am God. And down I went. And I've had some pretty awesome, energetic, like, electric experiences in that love power. And if the best is yet to come, oh boy,
Yes,
I
yes,
better let go.
yes. And again, this is where your wonderful topic to play with comes in, because it's perception. So you had perception once before that not worthy, all that kind of stuff, and then you had that moment, and it brought you to your knees, and it was astonishingly beautiful, when you met that and embraced it, right?
Yeah.
And then you sit here and we speak and we play together, and you go and you just said what you did, where if wait a minute, I've had pretty amazing, right? Delicious, cosmic, delicious stuff. The best is yet to come. And so your your flow to play with of perception and knowing, and then coloring more and outside of and beyond keeps flowing wherever you are. So you keep changing perception and have that knowing and meet yourself and color and expand, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it. And
It's
you
really
can
fun.
do it, you know, yeah, 1,000 times a day. And if you keep going, part of that doing is to keep going back to the heart, to keep having conversations in your own way, like the one I relayed about the gentleman at work, that interlude, right? And you could leave a little thing or mention something, but soft, but let that be the thing. Well, now everybody the perception is changing, the knowing is changing, the connection, right? I mean, think about all the things that we can cut. The lines will not only be changed and outside of and not there, but we've drawn whole new worlds and
Yeah.
whole new experiences.
Yes. Infinite infinities of them.
There you go.
I mean, how's that for another mind blower? Oh, my heart.
Right.
My heart says,
On
"Oh,
every level, every layer, every realm, every dimension, right? Every embodiment and non embodiment that encompasses the totality of you, the individualized soul that you are, which is all part of Source.
mhm."
Yeah, that ought to blow your mind.
Yeah, it does. And on that note, there just a moment ago came through my memory. My son has some friends. I think the band is Nathan Maxwell and the Bunny Gang. There's an album called Thrive, and there's a song on that album that is, everybody should hear this song. But it talks about, we are the ones we've been waiting for. The river is moving very fast. Do not hold on to the sides. Let it
Right.
go. You know, go with the flow.
Let go of that bridge, but come on, let go of the bridge.
Right? Yeah, and just get swept away in the joy of it. And you know, I feel like in everyone's life, even there's a movie, V for Vendetta,
Yeah.
and that girl that she was locked in this solitary confinement, naked and dirty and hungry, and she wrote on this toilet paper her story, and she's tucked it in there for the other girl to read. And it's like that indomitable human spirit, that spark within that cannot be extinguished. That is in all of us. And
Yeah.
if we look to that, if we allow ourselves to feel the magnificence of that and fan that flame and let it blaze, and it is the process. And it took me, I've been through my journey, and I'm practicing this intentionally, and I'm getting much
Yeah.
better at it.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is that it's getting easier and easier and easier simply because the energies that we are immersed in, that we're flowing and swimming in, the river of love that's is just overflown its banks now and is consuming everything. Um, you can't get away from the love that's coming at you. So if you thought you weren't loved, well, sorry. And it makes it all much more easy to connect, to have those synchronicities, to have those moments, to
Yeah,
shift the perceptions and touch your knowing, stand in it, and then color. Just color in all of the grandeur that exists everywhere. Pretty amazing.
yes. I am so happy and grateful to be here now.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled that you text anytime and say, "Hey, let's play with this." Very
Yep,
cool.
absolutely, I will.
So, do you have one thought left that just comes to heart right this moment that you want to share before we go?
Um, I would maybe encourage people to listen to that song.
Yeah,
I think it's
give me the title and the link, and I'll put it in the
yes, yes,
post.
yes. The link. I'll get the link on YouTube. But it's very fun. It's like, you know, as a Christian, not so much as a Catholic, but as a Christian, I had this born again experience where I went from a God that I could only access through a priest to one that's here and now and making me feel electricity in my body, and I can talk and receive communication, and I know that I can. Um, I believe that everyone can do that. And oh my gosh, don't let me lose my train of thought. Um, okay, so Christians, they're waiting for the second coming of Jesus, and I feel like we are the ones, that song, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
That's what the song is about. And the spirit of Christ is in all.
Yes.
Jesus is already here. The
Yeah.
Christ is here. It's in me, it's in you, it's
Bet.
in the flowers and the plants and the earth, and and that love, that is the rushing river of love. It's
Yes.
like jump in and go for the ride. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love you all. I love life, and it's available for everyone, no matter where you are, no matter how dark it is. Take a nap, wake up tomorrow and say, thank God for this breath of life,
Yeah.
and move through your day and see how fun it can be.
Yeah. Choose to create what you want intentionally. Yeah. Cool. Well, big hug to you and to everybody else. Thanks so much for playing, and we'll
Yeah,
see
thank
everybody
you.
later.
Thank you.